resources and its role as an important landmark. The White Bay Power Station is in need of significant revitalisation and will act as a catalyst for urban renewal.
Different, huh?
Very.
Timeline on this one. That was the before and after. Wow, that old building really turned into something really cool. Now that slum turned into something really cool. This was a historical review of what happened in Philadelphia, and you just attested that there is still issues there, it's still ongoing. And this one, we said it. It's like a sales video. It's part of the communication process, and for getting the buy-in, this is going to be great. Yeah? Knowing all this, still this. Yeah? So urban renewal, good or not?
It can be.
Yeah. Pro and cons.
Like when it's single family, well, when it's residential, it's hard to. You gotta have a lot of market analysis to support it. We go in and renew this urban community, but who's gonna move in there? Right?
Well, the question is also here again, scale. Is urban renewal done on one property only, on one site? No. Is it on neighborhood level?
Yes.
Maybe. Is it on a part of a city or a whole city? Pretty much. Yeah? It's a major surgery on the city's fabric and its culture. Yeah? And surgeries go sometimes well, and sometimes the patient has some limp after that. Yeah? So, when I came to the US, one of the major renewals and rehabilitation projects at the East Coast, what I learned, was Baltimore Harbor, with the neighborhoods impacted positively or negatively. Everyone loves the baseball stadium and the harbor area, but then the surrounding neighborhoods, not so much to some extent. And there are different opinions about this. So, pro is for sure land value should go up after you're done with this, because you regenerate this whole area. Yeah? The cons on the social side, you guys mentioned it already, typically is somewhat a displacement of existing population. Just because a house is boarded up does not mean that the whole neighborhood is empty. Yes, please.
I mean, I see the whole urban renewal as in general as being pro, but you know, as you renew these places, property values increase. I mean, I don't think it's a question of or intention to displace people, but there's really no way to eliminate the gentrification issue just because. I mean, if someone is living in the slums already and you redevelop the area, they're not going to be able to afford that place. So what can you do unless the city or the municipality provides affordable subsidies?
Yep.
If that's not available, then I mean, they have to go. They just can't afford it.
Forced displacement.
So how do you fix that?
That is the history of housing programs in this country since decades. There is no ultimate medicine to solve the problem. The most extremist way would be don't touch it.
What is
But it
uniform
has to
code?
be done at one point in life, you know?
Yeah.
It has to be done, at one point it has to be done, because you cannot be like that forever.
But you also can argue, well, even from a developer's point, you can argue, well, and I'm going to redevelop this, what's the type of product I'm going to put in? Do I actually give that existing social style, culture, economic base, you know, not to name any race in this, it's all indicators, socioeconomic indicators. Do I give that specific grouping an opportunity to stay in that area, and how? Are you providing socially acceptable rents, rent control to do that in apartments close by? Other extreme examples making now the big news again in terms of homelessness. The city of Salt Lake City. They are really famous for their homelessness program, because they did not just build a shelter and put homeless people in the shelter. No, they gave them small homes, and it was just one-bedroom apartment and a place to lock the bike. Yeah? And they gave them homes and they gave them jobs, and that's how Salt Lake solved most of their homelessness problem. Away from the street, but not dumped into a different place. They worked on that human being that is within that homeless. Yeah? Very interesting concept on how a disenfranchised, somewhat disabled, disabled from socio and cultural context grouping was re-engaged or again reintegrated in the urban fabric.
Yeah, they found that socially, well, financially, it was better, cheaper for the city because it was less strain on services to actually provide them with houses and training and jobs than to have them on the street.
But you have to find the right combination, the right set of tools to do that. The Salt Lake example for homelessness might not work in Atlanta, might not work in New York, could work, let's say, in Fort Lauderdale. Yeah? Depends on the people, and cost factor was interesting there because they say it's not just a displacement and providing a new homeless shelter. We did that in the urban plan. Yeah? It's also what kind of social services and other costs associated with this displacement are you accounting for? Yeah? Direct and indirect cost. That's a issue, and we have not found yet a solution to it. Also, not many people are looking for finding a solution. Being blunt here, it's not on everyone's radar screen to make this a problem for them. Yes, please.
Yeah, isn't there a federal program on the Uniform Act that tries to ease some of those social negative impacts?
Yeah, you have, what was it called?
Uniform Act?
Nay, what are the voucher programs?
They have a relocation assistance program that they have.
Yeah.
But it basically does what Stephen was saying, you know, it gives them and for some families, you know, it could be the best thing that ever happened to them because they could get more money to go move to a better place, but at the same time, if they like where they're living.
There used to be a voucher program like Hope 6, and there used to be a relocation program where if we would take families and people out of this area, you would actually pay them the gap between regular rent and what they could afford. You know? But I have to say I'm not up to date with the most current federal housing programs on that one. Yeah? But the general idea is you take them away out of this area you're going to redevelop. You have them find more different housing, but you pay extra premium for that. Like instead of $1,000, you would give them somewhat money so they actually can afford that. You know? It's kind of responsive, somewhat. There are also programs that would say, while this is redeveloped, you can live here and then they can move back. But then the character of the area might change so dramatically that people might not like to move back because it's not their neighborhood anymore. You know, because the identity and the culture is gone. Gentrification and then displacement is a very interesting topic, interesting problem from a social perspective. To be honest, I don't know to which extent real estate programs actually teach that or include that. I want to include it. I want to have that as at least in that short form, so you have been aware, you heard of it. First platform of contacts. Hey, this is the topic. Where can I find more information about that? Because in the long run, we gotta work this out. Yeah. If you look at economics, how economics pan out, income gaps, yeah, all that, housing. This is what you said last week, last session. Housing is a huge divider because it manifests income and lifestyles. Remember, you came up with the example if you want to be a housemate with Victor or not. You still haven't said yes or no to it. But so again, here, urban renewal. I was sitting in a guest presentation. I'm like, oh yeah, I have exactly the same slide.
Oh, is that the same place?
Yep, exactly the same place. So this is the city of Bayreuth in northern Bavaria, Germany. Bayreuth or Beirut. So where did you go? Where did you study? In Beirut? So what you see is similar to what he showed us with that old harbor wall, completely filled in. This is a channelized little creek going through. Part of that creek is later on in Frankfurt. That's the big lake, the river in Frankfurt. So it starts there. Well, 2 or 3 actually merge. That was filled with concrete on top. They put a concrete plate on top and had basically parking and some pedestrian area on that. And then over time it deteriorated. And the story is that an older lady actually tripped because there was a hole in that plate. The horror story is that a dog tripped, and the good story was that she tripped with her foot, so I don't know. But what they did is actually they opened up this whole thing as part of urban renewal. To put those stairs in, put some little bridges to connect. This is not yet the pedestrian zone. Pedestrian zone just starts here, that line behind that bus, to the old opera house. This is multiple 100 years of old sandstone buildings. But they make this actually a tourist destination. There's you can see here umbrellas. There's actually a restaurant and a coffee shop.
What are the posts in the water?
I don't know. Maybe decoration. I don't know.
Lights, maybe.
Could be also lights. Yeah. I walked by there just 2 weeks ago. Monday, 2 weeks ago. Oh, why not?
Then you should take a selfie with you in the corner.
I'm too old for selfies. I had 1 or 2 selfies with my Greek guy, but that's it. But he's no. But you can see people sitting here. So this is actually in the summertime. This is a destination for people. Take a basket of food, bottle of wine, and just chill out. Public drinking is allowed, so you can actually hit this with red wine very nicely. So hey, I've done this, so it's okay. Same city of Bayreuth. Topic today is transportation and street design. So when we talk about complete streets, you can see actually here there's some parking. This is guys actually illegally parking here. You can see it, the bar out. Bikes, sidewalks, nicely wide, and island infill here between parking bays. This is a side street next to the pedestrian area. That lady on the bike almost ran me over. So that was kind of a fun comment with the Amsterdam story. Quick impression, this is the old downtown of the same city. And pictures are actually, to give you an idea, locally, this is the creek picture, this direction. Then this is the pedestrian zone. This is this picture. The next picture is this way. And here's the lady on the bicycle. So this is actually pedestrian zone, basically like walking distance. Within 300 to 400 yards, you have different flares of town. Old traditional historic buildings. This is the concrete sin, the brutalist example. That's actually used to be still a bank. You can see the different texture of the stones. They used to have this open for traffic, and then they shut it down. What you see right now is a Tuesday morning, 9, 10 o'clock. So this is actually, the cars are actually delivery services. Yeah? After 10:30, this is full pedestrian, but city buses are still allowed. Story goes, when East Germany was still active, the Allied forces, in this case the Americans, have been stationed there. I have a friend who remembers a tank parked in front of the next building, getting McDonald's. So this is pedestrian zone. This is just 1 block walking distance, the other way direction. Water play for kids and families, so you actually can push up water here. A little bit open artistic space with arts. Yeah, shops. Second and third floors, apartments. Yeah. Old historic backdrop, and then all restaurants are now inside the pedestrian zone. No fences or something, because you are publicly allowed to drink alcohol. So you don't have to draw that hard fence boundary, no alcoholic beverages beyond that point. And that was breakfast on that day.
Is that you having breakfast?
That was my breakfast, yeah.
Is that sausage or
That's
what?
white sausages made out of veal. Like, think about this bratwurst, it's fluffy like a marshmallow.
Sausage.
Pretzel, sweet mustard, and actually it's a non-alcoholic wheat beer.
Right.
And non-alcoholic beverage, because after that I hit 3 hours Autobahn. You don't drive hyperspeed with alcohol. You don't drive or drink at all. Okay? I knew it. I put that picture up and someone will say something. Yeah, all right. All right. Quincy. The only non-alcoholic beer I had on my personal trip. Okay?
That was it.
The only non-alcoholic. All right.
That's why I made the
Oh boy.
Quick idea on talk about transportation. Circulation, moving people, moving goods, that was part of the presentation we heard today from Doug. Yeah? Particularly when you present master plans, you actually had some layers where it only said trails or circulation patterns. Yeah? And you're like, oh, circulation. That Würzer guy asked us that in the exam. Okay, fine, we learned it. Yeah? So this is kind of a rough overview on transportation in general and the thoughts behind transportation. Well, can we plan for it? Well, that depends. Transportation of what and for whom? If you're doing, let's say, a pure retail development, you would think that your main transportation is car dependent and pedestrian path outside and inside your project. Yeah? From the parking lot, inside the building, within the building. That's purely the concept. However, if you do, let's say, prime residential, we saw this wonderful example, trails, bicycle paths, people want to move, you add that mode of transportation as a new amenity or reinvented amenity to your sales pitch of the product. Yeah? But you need to plan for it. You need to consider it, be aware of it. Yeah? And part of being in school is be aware of it, learn how to be aware of it. And then transport, or actually the why and where, to try to solve the next few slides. Transportation in a perfect world. There's no aging infrastructure, no potholes, no frost, nothing. In a perfect world, I have no technology improvements because everything is static. Yeah? No operating costs or maintenance, never have to fix a road or a rail. No operating costs, operational costs, replacement costs don't interest me at all. If I want to upgrade the street, doesn't matter. And then if I talk about transit, free fare schedule in streetcars and buses, do I need to consider cost of driving? In a perfect world, no. And you look at me like, hey man, this guy is tripping, huh? Yeah? No?
If you live in Florida.
Perfect world. This is a slide I altered a little bit. This is a slide I start my transportation lecture for SimCity. Because all these bullet points are valid if you play that computer game. Yeah? So, aging infrastructure does exist, does it? Technology improvements do exist. Operating cost maintenance, yeah, big pain. Replacement costs, big pain, particularly if you combine aging infrastructure. And then the fare schedule of streetcars and buses. That's typically the problem why we don't have transit, because the stereotype is that you need to subsidize transit, because the fares would be too expensive or the ridership would not be high enough. Yeah? And the cost of driving is always not considered. Not anymore. If you buy a new car, what is on the label? They tell you what's the miles per gallon. They tell you the price. They tell you EPA stuff. They tell you how much carbon dioxide you produce. Do you care? Probably not.
And in the future, I don't know, Tesla just announced that their next 10-year plan is for all the new Teslas, when you buy it, takes you to work, and then when you're at work, it essentially drives around and performs its own Uber, so you can help monetize and pay for that car. So there'll be more.
Yeah, or you go old school and you actually do a. Or you go old school and you do actually carpooling. You drive with 2 or 3 guys from work together. Yeah? Or you go even more old school. Or you go even more old school and take the bus with 50 other people. So
Really go old school, ride a bike.
Question about
exactly,
like
exactly. On that note, enjoy the donut. So there's different. So here, the new technology is a self-driving car producing income for you with concepts like Uber, but completely forgetting the idea behind why you actually originally had the car and how could you share that car. I have 1 or 2 slides on congestion on this one here, where I have to ask now, what's about HOVs, highly occupied vehicles? You carpool, therefore you get special rights on high-frequency roads. Yes, please.
With like technological advances, specifically like drone technology, and how crazy it's getting. I've seen videos where people are actually riding on them. So at some point, people are going to be able to have flying vehicles. It's going to happen eventually. So when that happens, I mean, what do you think is going to happen to existing infrastructure, like roads and maintenance of that? Is it still going to get the same attention it needs? It's just going to be dilapidated since it's a new wave?
well, those vehicles are going to be adaptable. They're going to be flying as well as driving.
So here's the question. In office space, we have different classes, A, B, C. And we have this filtering that someone in C will go to B and then to A. Yeah? The question, do we see that now with transportation? Vehicles, yes, because Jason might buy a hybrid and in 2 years Victor is buying it off. Yeah? Or you lease it for 3 years and then he's buying it. Yeah? So you have this trickling down or filtering somewhat of technology. Yeah? We have people who buy the brand new iPhone and people say, yeah, I'm fine with the 5 right now on the market, I buy that from eBay. Yeah? So you always have that. In cars, you always have that as well, unless you have governmental regulations that say, hey, if your car is older than 1990, it's environmentally not friendly anymore, can't buy it. Yeah? Some countries did that, not necessarily 1990, but based on your emission. Does this really work with infrastructure? Let's go back in time. Early 90s, German reunification happened. And with the German reunification, East Germany merging back again or getting reunited to West Germany, we have seen one critical element, what we call now the shrinking city. Based on the demographics of a town, infrastructure lost its critical mass. People have been moving, people have been dying. Aging in a community, yeah? versus people moving away because there's no job in that region anymore. People moving out of project-based housing, like high-rises, dirt cheap material, moving out because now they have the legal liberty to buy their own property and create their own sweet homes. You know? So why would you sit in a small 1 or 2 bedroom apartment, governmentally controlled, on the 15th floor with no elevator, when you now suddenly get your 3 or 4 bedroom small house with 1,000 square foot or larger? You know? So they had, in certain communities, they had this huge issue that, boom, that whole block was empty. That whole building block was empty. So what they did is basically, renewal was demolition. I can present it maybe, or send you guys a slide or two. You can see 2 or 3 of those project skyscrapers. They took the one in the middle out to create view shed, so a green space. That's one way to do it. Yeah? But people are gone. In terms of infrastructure, water, sewer, gas, electricity, you need to have minimum flow rates for some, particularly for water, to maintain the quality of the water. You can't have water stand in the pipes for too long. You need a consistent minimum flow. So if you have now a subdivision that used to have, let's say, or an area that used to have 200 units, and now you're down to 30, that flow might not be guaranteed. If you have gravity-fed sewage systems, we'll have slides later, yeah? If you don't produce enough inflow,
Blockage.
there's no movement. Yeah? Gotta have inflow into your sewage system. That can be rechanneling of a small natural creek into it. That can be having enough people drinking enough beer and producing liquid. Or you do have normal people, but you have 500 households consistently producing that kind of sewage flow. So I was a little bit graphic with that. But if you don't have enough flow in your sewage system, you get basically congestion. You get stuck. Yeah? Or if you have too much flow in the sewage system, this is a case we have seen here in the US multiple times. If you have stormwater and sewer combined in old systems, old school systems, too much rain will overflow the sewage system and spill sewage, raw sewage, not just in the next water body, but maybe even on the street. There's a hygiene, health problem with that associated as well. But shrinking cities is a stereotype for declining population, and therefore you actually have lost the critical mass of users in your system for the utilities. Electrical systems, I'm not an electrical engineer, but I would think you need to have also a minimum flow rate in that system, circulation within the system, to maintain that system. Aging electrical systems is probably not as critical like with water or sewage. Yeah? But good question. What are we going to do with this? Detroit opened up the whole discussion in the last 5-10 years about shrinking cities. They actually had Germans flying in as somewhat experts, because that's what is happening. Economic decline, changing demographics, people are moving away. You do not have the infrastructure. On the contrary, if you have young people move away, middle-aged people move away, and you have elderly people still there, you will see an increase in social services serving that older population. Yeah? I know the stereotype here in Florida, we are kind of the senior citizen state. Yeah? But there is a need for that too, yeah, for that generation. But how do you do that if nobody else is in that area? Yeah? And the water company recommends, hey, we should change actually the water flows. Huge problem with health in terms of maintaining water quality, particularly if you have seasonal weather. All right. No, we can't actually check this one. All right, this is a little bit about the economics of utilities and transportation. this is where I say I might be a little bit biased. The whole idea is if you generate a trip, you create basically a net benefit. Yeah? The benefits minus the cost. The classic example is drive time. That the combined time to get to a place and back should not exceed the time spent at that location. You're not going to drive 3 hours north to get to a burger shop, eat that burger for 20 minutes and drive 3 hours back again. Yeah? Doesn't make sense. That burger must be really good. Yeah?
Well, it depends who you're meeting at the burger shop.
There you go. It's not there yet.
Might be worth the trip.
Meeting someone at the burger shop is a trip combination. There's an additional benefit. Yeah? The only extreme case why you would do a trip like this would be you have a relative passed away and you're running up for 5 hours to the place, do the service, see family, and then you drive back. Yeah? An extraordinary event. I'm planning on attending a wedding in Boston in October. So I'm traveling to Boston for 1 or 2 days to see my other brother getting married. Cincinnati family, they adopted. So this is an extraordinary event for that you would have enough spend money or time to do that. So the benefits minus cost to travel, in my case to Boston, the benefit is I can witness that special event in their lives. Yeah? It's different from going shopping to Costco. Costco's around the corner. Well, I'm not going to drive to Costco in Miami to pick up regular household stuff because it's around the corner. So trip distance is a cost in that time. Trip time is a cost. This is how you deal with GIS. You create those costs. Yeah? In theory, it should be always positive. In theory. Can you imagine something where the net benefit is negative, where the benefit is less than the cost? It turns into pain.
Putting in the infrastructure and the piping, maybe you have to, if you're a developer, planning out a pretty much free land or greenfield site.
Oh, you're one step ahead of us. You're talking about development. This is transportation. Let's say you in the car.
What's the, what is that again?
Have you any ideas about where your potential trips, the net benefit could be negative?
If you had an accident or something went wrong with the vehicle where it had to be towed or
Traffic.
written off or...
You want to just run to the beach and you get stuck in rush hour and you're actually sitting in for 2 hours in the traffic and you won't even see one piece of sand.
You go take a drive on the street, make $50 doing something, and it costs you $100 of gas.
Yeah? Yeah? Running for a quick consulting job and you realize, man, now stupid me, I actually have that accident, now I'm actually paying hundreds of dollars for that accident.
Yeah. I did that once. I helped my buddy tow a large trailer once. It was quick $100. Like, cool, let me do it. It's on to Miami, be an hour trip, run it back, run a trip. By the time I got back, I spent all that money in gas.
Would be with your friend.
Yeah,
Good thing over there.
that's my friend.
So you gotta keep this in mind, and this is also interesting in terms of when you plan actually for development, that whatever you actually place in your project, this is more retail, office, or mixed use, that it has to create those extra benefits and synergies for your potential customers. I've been to the GIS conference, met with the real estate interest group, and they're all about riderships, all about traffic frequencies, traffic counts, and intersections. Yeah? Their world is mapping out traffic counts, intersections, best real time, so you actually know now retail can predict this amount of customer streams coming in, potential revenues by product type. Huh? The real estate business in GIS was named the most successful, fastest growing business in the last 2 years with SREE, with the software company. So, quote, you're the reason why we make so much profit for that.
What's that software?
ESRI, SREE. Come to my class, Thursday nights, starting in August. Yep. So I mentioned Pareto. Alfredo Pareto, Italian mathematician, and a Pareto improvement. I think I mentioned this in this class, where people are better off, trade-offs. The brief example is at least one person is better off and no one is worse. Your status quo has not changed. If I make a land deal with Steve and you are partners in that room, I pay him off for the land. Nobody else has a problem with that. You're not worse off. If I put a nuclear power plant on that, I might have to pay certain fees as well, so I compensate you guys for your pain or burden. That would be the next step. The idea behind the Pareto improvement is that the rational drivers will only make trips with net positive benefits, and since drivers bear all the costs, no one is worse off. Is that true? The driver bears or holds all the cost, therefore no one is worse off. Forgive me my French, everyone who nodded, I say hell no. We had in prior lectures, we had what? Noise reduction boards. We talked about smell, air quality. Those are side effects from car-dependent traffic. So even if Victor is driving a wonderful car and is really, really eager on short trips and trip combinations, like don't run 5 times back and forth, do it once in one run, he is impinging on someone's health or quality of life. Someone impeding on someone. Huge problem in the environmental debate. Absolutely not accepted in certain spectrum of the society. CO2, gas emissions, etc., nuisance from traffic is the accepted burden.
Well, what about the truckers that are moving goods?
I'm not getting there.
It's necessary.
Yeah? Necessary evil. Look at Switzerland. All traffic on semi-trucks goes on rail. There is no, unless you're short trip and perishables for the short trip, if you have trans-European traffic, like from Rotterdam down to Italy, then you're passing the Netherlands, Germany, Switzerland, and Italy, that truck is on rail, at least in Switzerland. And the Swiss guys are so fast and efficient that basically you can show up there, put your truck, complete truck, or just a trailer, put it on there, and you basically have your sleep rest on the train for a few hours and then you truck it off again.
But that's cross country. What about local delivery? If they got to deliver the beer off those trucks to the restaurant.
A local delivery, that's a last mile problem. We heard that in telecommunications as well. Last mile problem is in utilities as well. How do you get from the street curbside into the property? How do you get from the interstate into that subdivision? That's the problem, because you disperse your distribution. We cannot work in channels. Transnationally, yeah, fine, put everything on a
Drone.
progressive European here. Put everything on rail. Improve rail system infrastructure and you have no problems. For that you need to change Chicago, because it takes days for some rails to pass Chicago. But no second.
I'll be a little spoiled.
Do we need this one? Yeah, just this is more regional traffic, regional transportation. I want to keep this in. For the time being, I want to keep it, but keep it short. Tolerance is a concept here. The fast lanes, express lanes here in our region is a concept. You pay a premium to drive faster with no congestion or less congestion in rush hour. Now you pay that premium price. Congestion pricing has been an interesting discussion globally in the past years in urban core cities, like highly frequented urban core cities. Singapore, London, Stockholm, to name 3 different countries. Yeah? And the concept is, in Singapore you actually buy a small ticket. You basically buy a license to enter the downtown area. Right? Every cab driver needs to have that. And they're really aggressive. If you don't have that, it costs you a lot of money, you know, to get your car back. London did that too. The inner city of London now is controlled by like what's called now a toll system. You have to have access, expensive access, to get there. So most people don't buy that, and they substitute traffic.
They take the tube.
Oh yeah, well yeah, it's subway. So they substitute that. And Stockholm was interesting because Stockholm, to my knowledge, was one of the first European cities that actually did a timed congestion pricing. During rush hour during a rush hour, let's say between 8:30 and 10, you pay a little bit more on that toll road to get into the city. Like we have our express lanes, let's say 25 cents or 50 cents. It's like demand and supply pricing. Yeah? And that's actually the next slide here. Waiting cost and scheduled delay cost. So Stockholm, what they say is basically if you come in at 8 o'clock, you don't pay anything. Before 8, you don't pay anything. If you're there at 8:30, you pay something. Yeah? At noon, you pay maybe less or more. So during the day, during the use of that street and the amount of cars traveling, they have somewhat a flexible pricing model. Now you can argue, hey, what are the microeconomics, demand, supply behind that? But the fundamental idea is these costs you have to face might potentially change your driving behavior, route, or travel time. We had a few weeks ago, we had, I think, constructions here, and everyone says take Criven, not the regular way to the airport. Yeah? And ideas like that. If you have, was it a jazz festival or blues festival in Tortuga? No. Late April. Everyone said, oh, it's crazy.
Jazz in the dark?
Oh no, country festival, country music festival. Everyone said, hey, yeah, reroute. Yeah. So waiting costs, also an interesting thing. What is your typical drive time to school?
Depends on the time of day.
Depends on the time of the day. Because you have to consider waiting time in traffic. What do you do while you wait in traffic?
On the phone.
Texting.
My phone, so I'm working.
You're on the phone, what else?
Just wasting
Singing
time.
in the car.
10, 15 years ago, when nobody else had a smartphone, you had to listen to radio, yeah? The best invention for traffic jams is an audio book. Yeah?
Yes.
But basically, traditionally you can say the time you sit in your car standing in rush hour is lost time. If you work in consulting, time is money.
Yes.
More than just being in a car. If you run $300 the hour for consulting, that is not the time well spent. Absolutely not. And sometimes you do stuff, sometimes your part of work does not allow you to be on the phone. You need to visual present things to people.
So unless you include the travel time in your fees.
Well, then you're a good consultant. Good luck with that. So the question here is, are traffic congestion induced costs relevant for us in real estate development? Is congestion and traffic volume for us relevant?
Yes.
Yes.
Why? You just say yes, come on. Full set.
Planning the facility to address that.
Well, yeah, I have 2 yeses first. So let them answer first.
Go ahead, Victor.
I would say it's important to. I would say it's important to like include it, because it can affect other areas of real estate development, such as like you have a retail section. So having more traffic can facilitate boosting of like, you know, people coming in and out and stuff.
People coming in and out, okay.
So,
What was it again?
That's the question, you said yes.
Yeah, it matters. It's relevant. It's relevant because I guess in respect to where you want to go, how fast you want to get there, for shopping, work, school, home, daycare, for family, it's all relevant. You make those decisions on like where I'm gonna put my child in daycare, or how long it's gonna take me, traffic to get home, pick them up, drop them off to school.
Real estate development.
Yeah, so as a developer, you have to take into consideration.
Selection of a site
Yeah.
is dependent on its location, dependent on, let's say, just its traffic count, but traffic count is not going up if you have people just standing there in traffic. Might be great, because they all pass the count sometime, but they might stuck an hour before they actually pass the count. Yeah? So for real estate development, when we talk about traffic congestion, we need to understand where are the bottlenecks, because a really cool location might not be so nice and cool in traffic, because it's in a bottleneck area. Like, oh yeah, great, wonderful location, but how do you get there? Oh yeah, I'm going to be stuck for an hour on University Drive. Huh? So, how do you circumvent that? How do you plan for that? Huh? So trade-off between delayed costs and scheduled delayed costs. If you travel early or late, you will reduce your delay costs. Yeah?
True.
True. If you travel near peak travel time, your scheduled delay costs will be small, but waiting costs will be greater. True. If you don't get out of bed on time, instead of 8 o'clock, you hit the highway at 9. You travel a little bit longer because everyone is up at 9. Yeah? I have colleagues that are here in the office at 6:30, 7 o'clock because there's no travel commute, nothing. No. But they leave earlier or stay longer. I work from home. It's too early to be in the office at 6:30. So, humorous comics. Public transit wastes money. It always has to be subsidized. This is one of the stereotyped comments you will hear. Somewhat true. But then you look at the whole holistic concept of traffic produced by cars, pollution, parking, somewhat, yeah? And then you have all the public services that are engaged in traffic control, traffic guidance, and repairs and safety. Yeah? Who's paying this guy? This guy's from Orlando sitting in traffic in Fort Lauderdale. It doesn't pay that guy. So the freedom of mobility has a price, but we are not, all of us are not paying that price equally.
Right.
To keep that metaphorical framework going on here language. So the idea then here is to, if you want to introduce something like transit, and transit can be, it doesn't have to be necessarily cars anymore.
well, isn't he, sorry to interrupt, isn't he paying it with like tolls and stuff coming from Orlando down to Orlando?
Not if he's on I-95, I think that tolls come up.
Nobody drives 95 more.
So again, this
Right.
this example also depends on where do you draw the boundaries. If this is the whole U.S., technically speaking or environmentally speaking, we all produce pollution. The CO2 we blow up here in Fort Lauderdale might not impact Fort Lauderdale directly, but it might impact someone else. Yeah? We have places in the U.S. where you can smell the industry and warehousing from a few miles, if not 100 miles away, because the wind shed is straight that direction. Yeah? And you might not have that somewhat pollution in that close by area because it's too high, and somewhere it drops. Yeah? And again, I don't want to be here too environmentally, yeah, but I'm trying to poke you guys a little bit here, man, with ideas and provocative thoughts. Yes.
I think it balances out, because correct me if I'm wrong, but like the highways are built by DOT, and DOT is federal taxpayers' dollars. So even if the guy is being paid by local taxes, the road was built by federal taxes. So somehow we paid for it in federal taxes, and you guys just.
So why is the subsidy, the money that goes into a federal highway or a local road from federal government or state government, why is that share for a road in some areas still higher than into a public bus system? Because the rates how transportation systems are subsidized through public funding, they differ. And this is one of these Achilles questions on yes, Achilles I'm telling you, part of Chetlik is to get rid of the German language again. The Achilles heel issue is to come up with fair funding. And then you would say, well, yeah, but cars are more people transporting. And I'd say, why can't you think about a different way of transportation? The interesting concept on the presentation we saw today was they open up waterways to introduce ships and canoes, like playing in Little Venice in the Middle East. Yeah? So be creative on, if you deal with larger sites, not just one or two houses, be creative and say, hey, you know what? Based on our street layout and the way we cut the property with open spaces and trails, we can introduce different walking and biking patterns where people do not have to drive from their cul-de-sac around a house and 3 streets closer. They can basically leave the backyard and go to a friend's house across the open space. Yeah? So just that mindset and say, hey, okay, fine, let's introduce that. Might not reduce all traffic, but maybe some of that traffic in the neighborhood. A schematic, a little bit dated, schematic on better transit. Yes, it costs money, but could produce fewer cars on the street. If you have a good bus system, people have a good scheduling time, head time. Yeah? People might actually take this. Yeah? And that's an outcome here. You take the bus, your car is not on the street. Yeah? You could say this can be paid through some more intelligent financing system. Yeah? But at the end, if you have a good transit system, I'm not going into details, if you have a good transit system in place with all modes, foot, bike share, buses, high-speed rail, and cars, and big buses as well, like regional buses, Greyhound, you might be able to have that connectivity you need to get that boost. Yeah? If you're in the middle of nowhere, who will come to work with you or shop? The best example for the middle of nowhere, but it's really booming, is Las Vegas. Because Las Vegas has enough attraction to make that trip. Any questions?
Yeah, kind of like in Brickell. I mean, I wouldn't necessarily say better transit means fewer cars. It's like they jack up the parking garage rates. So if you're coming from outside the city, or if you're driving around, you don't have places to park. So if you can park, it's kind of like incentivizing you to use more transit and drive less.
That's a consideration. A schema here. Few trips, few too many. This is like a database. Yeah? If you do the computer stuff. But this impacts pricing. This impacts parking needs. Yeah? I just want to give you the idea of when you have a destination, let's say here, many to it, to original locations, many to many. One urban center to another urban center. You can find from each of these, you can find examples. The many to few could be a tourist destination, a ski resort. Yeah? Orlando, Walt Disney is many to few. There are lots of trips coming in, but less regional trips. If you say within an hour drive time versus within 10 hours flight time, cruise boats, ports, it's the same. You know? It's not. So to conclude with this a little bit, push you a little bit the other corner of traffic. Which traffic? Yeah? If you do site planning, if you look at the site, if you look at circulation, we usually have entry point and exit point on the subdivision. We have our road network. Sometimes we think about pedestrians, sometimes we think about bicycles. Yeah? But we are mainly focused on how could we lay out the roads based on the environment, based on water bodies, based on the width of the road for capacity and fire trucks. Because at the end, the fire department will tell you, you are not wide enough for our truck, for our engine. You need to change the street pattern. You know? But which traffic? Can we argue that if you build a project site, you should maybe even think about how do you reduce traffic on that site? And yes, we can argue like this because we had this discussion already with linkages, remember? The allocation of buildings and building functions on the site depends how you allocate them on the site. You generate traffic patterns, and based on traffic patterns, you generate congestions. And based on your capacity and the traffic patterns, through let's say through intersections, you produce chaos or not.
What one-way streets are traffic reducing? Or is it the other way?
Depends. Depends on what kind of system they are.
Well, if you have a two-way pair, it can certainly manage traffic better than a two-way street.
Depends on the capacity, depends on your regional pattern. So my example now here for capacity intersections is everyone aware of the Publix at Cleary and Nob Hill?
Yeah.
Out the plantation?
Hey. That's
Google it sometime.
The little plaza you?
The little plaza,
Oh.
which is great. Islands here, trees there. There are like 50 different stop signs on that parking lot. I think this is the most critical moment. I have been in almost 2 accidents in 3 weeks. It's weird there. So the capacity is a regular local street on a parking lot, but the amount of intersections and stop signs is so high that it's confusing because at the end you're actually in the one-way street because you turn one stop sign on to the right too early.
Oh, I know what you're talking about.
Little Publix there with a school or something like that. Next across the street is Winn-Dixie.
Install more roundabouts.
Yeah, roundabout doesn't exist on that layout.
Yeah.
But what I'm saying is site-specific traffic matters.
Right.
If you have a magnet like a Kmart or a Walmart or a big grocery store on the side, you gotta deal with the environmental part versus the traffic. This is coming from the guy who really likes clean parking lots, but please, one tree less, clear traffic patterns, safety first. Quote from the book: when traffic flow is heavy, the critical limit capacity, sorry, typo, is the intersection. The stop and go and the reduction of the flow. I have one video at the end which talks about average wait time between 30 seconds and 90 seconds and 3 minutes. I'm like, yeah, in Florida, that's fine. During the daytime. 3 minutes at certain university, 3 minutes feels like it sometimes. But different regions, different concepts of how much wait time you want to present.
I got a question.
Yes,
I don't know if anyone knows. Do the fire department control the light signals?
Usually not.
Myth or not.
Usually not. Usually that's actually the city or whoever
No, I mean like
owns
if
the
they're on
street.
a call or something.
a 911 call.
No, they just use their siren to clear the intersection.
No, so they don't
So
control
in
the
the
lights.
modern technology, in theory, smart cities is not a buzzword. City buses and emergency management services could override or shorten the red light, which is smart, isn't it? Because that would reduce the amount of traffic accidents for a fire run tremendously, because on the response time tremendously, because the ambulance would not have to come to a full stop to sneak in and then pass, because nobody listens to the siren and to the lights until they hit you because you're in the way.
I've heard that rumor too, that the frequency of their alarms or whatever, I guess, changes the light. I always heard that, I think there's two.
Yeah.
Maybe it makes sense, but the question is what's the response time for that traffic pattern? Yeah.
Well, I know the buses do, but not the fire trucks. The buses have transponders to change the signal timing.
Yeah.
So they yeah, county buses.
It runs the same idea with the HOV lanes on some of the larger interstates or regional bypasses, that you actually get this dedicated line for buses or highly occupied vehicles. Yeah. But if you don't have that lane as a capacity, what you could do is maybe you can use radio control technology to, once you're close by, that it gives you earlier red or no red, so you can run through. Makes sense. To which extent this is implemented is the other question.
There's some private communities that the fire department now requires you to provide a thing called SOS systems, where it's a sonar operated system. So they have emergency gates, instead of having to come out, unlock the gate, open it to enter the community.
Just swipe.
Yeah, they just swipe, they hit their alarm.
Because that could be critical 30 seconds.
Exactly.
Yeah. So what about traffic and urban plan? To wake you guys up. Traffic and urban plan. Is traffic and urban plan a problem?
Yes,
For the last 6 weeks, 8 weeks, we have been dealing with urban plan, that legal game. So is traffic a problem there?
Yes.
Yes, they
Yes.
don't really want to build certain things or high density because of traffic.
All right. Did you address it properly?
Oh, yeah.
We're trying to,
Yeah.
like,
Roadblocks.
design certain buildings certain ways so it won't be traffic. And trying to get it away from the actual residents.
Any problems with that discussion in your teams? Or everyone was on the same page? Did anyone argue, hey, this is actually high frequency producer, this is actually giving us a lot of money? Or traffic is not really welcome in that community, therefore we're not taking that money maker? Do you? No? Alright. Alright, yeah.
Community improve walkability. This is Urban Planning 101.
We had a video like this.
Walkability affects community health, economics, and the overall livability of a town. It is not just about being physically able to walk somewhere, but about all the things that influence your choice to take care of daily activities on foot. 400 meters, or a quarter mile, is the distance the average person can walk in 5 minutes. When a trip becomes longer, people choose other, more convenient ways of getting around. But we cannot just judge walkability with a straight line measurement. Separated land uses, dead-end streets, large blocks, and poorly designed and arranged developments can mean that many places are undesirable or unsafe to walk through, or more than 5 minutes away. By changing some of the ways we build our neighborhoods and towns, we can make them more walkable. The following are 3 ways of doing just that. 1. Arrange the uses in your community so that people can get to many of them on foot. Put neighborhood convenience stores, daycares, and parks in the heart of residential areas, and make sure these are connected to main downtown commercial districts. And don't make blocks too large, or at least include safe, well-designed shortcuts through them. 2. Focus on placemaking. That means making destinations people-oriented and interesting by mixing a variety of uses and designing spaces for different kinds and ages of people. And remember, All trips start and end as walking trips, so even include safe walkways through parking lots. And 3, make your neighborhoods and districts pleasant for people to walk through, with streets, buildings, and landscaping that are all designed to focus on people's experiences. This doesn't have to be complicated. Placing buildings close to the street, avoiding blank walls, and including street trees along sidewalks are some of the most universally effective ways to make a community more pedestrian friendly. With these simple long-term policy goals and land use decisions, and basic design and development solutions, you and your elected officials, municipal planners, and builders can work together to improve your community's walkability. I'm Robert Voigt, and this has been Urban Planning 101.
Yeah? Super simple, basically. But I think what really is cool on this, on this really short video is we just learn walkability in an urban planning context, what you usually get taught by at least with 3 or 4 lectures. Yeah? Very easy to understand, very illustrative or nicely illustrated. What does this mean? That one example where this L building got cut through, nobody really said, no, I don't like this. Nobody argued, hey, wait, I'm losing floor space right now. And actually introducing more costs for street design. However, there's always a trade-off because now suddenly you have not just one main building, you have 2 main buildings. Maybe you can combine heating systems, HVAC, infrastructure, some utilities shouldn't be a problem, but it makes the space more accessible and maybe even visual more aesthetic. And that's one of the selling points that in those examples. Yeah? Because you're not anymore on this pure block. Here, the crew who won there, sitting in that corner. We had a discussion about the shape of the building and sketched the shape of the building. Instead of one cigar, long cigar, maybe an L or something like this, and then play with either 2 levels or 3 levels. So be creative a little bit. We heard that from Doug this morning. You gotta think outside of the box. Right? Just because you're a real estate developer doesn't mean that you should not touch a little bit of design or other ideas of the planning and the landscape work. All right, a little bit more pictures. Heidelberg. Did I show Heidelberg in one of my first lectures? Big red sandstone castle on top of the river.
I've been there. It's nice.
It's nice, isn't it? Yeah? 326 steps up to the castle. I took this picture because Heidelberg is a cool town in terms of our class here, pattern, textures, you know, pedestrian zone. This is an alley in the pedestrian zone. This is not Main Street. This is literally, look, 3 people, 5 people wide, tall buildings, but it's full of bikes, even a small bistro. The subway has seating outside. But they started doing this here as a foundation, a citizens foundation, and this is actually a living library. So people, was cold, was a cold day. And
You said what happens if it rains?
it's covered.
No rain, no go outside.
It's covered, and maybe there's a good citizen who covers this in the front as well. They're not $500 books. Huh? They're not, but the interesting thing is they're in public space. Apparently nobody's stealing them. Yeah. And this lady actually really took some time to actually go through them. Yeah. And it's in the middle of an alley. There's all over the place view. And the concept is you take a book, you read a little bit, maybe in the shade of below a tree, and then put it back. Yeah? But the important part is interacting with society, interacting with space. It's a book, it's not on your phone. Yes, please.
Has anybody seen this concept here in the States?
Yeah, I've
Yes.
seen, there's a few neighborhoods that have those.
Yeah. So the neighborhood library or traveling libraries
Yeah.
now.
Even
That's-
Jupiter Farms, which is, I mean, it's not put on by the neighborhood, but residents build a little thing and they have it like by their mailbox with glass, front, so you can
So we
swap
have,
out books and stuff.
what we have seen all over the world in rural areas where you don't have enough density anymore for a library bus. That there would be like an old school bus full of books would drive, and you would know, hey, Wednesday at 5 p.m., my marketplace, the library bus is coming. And you would exchange your books or even DVDs, and then a week later they come back.
Where's this?
All over the nation, all over the globe. Yeah? Library buses. Right? Where people are so far away from that center that along the transit route there would be a bus. Imagine Greyhound buses would have a bookshelf. That would be kind of cool. You suddenly get a book that was read last time in Chicago. Yeah? But interesting concept. If your public library system is not working or not enough density for those library stations, this could be also marketing for the library. Yeah? So hey, there are still books out there. You can read them. So I have a few slides here to give you the impression of what's going on if you walk through those areas. And architectural details, you can see different old school and rehabbed. Yeah, there are some specific placemaking details in the streetscaping here. Bikes are all over the place. This is a Friday around noon. Yeah? Pretty busy, was cold. You can see everyone's wearing coats, etc. And this is walking towards an old church, a small town plaza around the church. Pretty busy. And then you look into the alleys and you find this. This is in front of a regular residential house. You find a bike, 2 bikes, a Vespa, and a smart car. And I took the picture because the way this guy parked. You know? This guy is not bigger than 2 bikes and a roller. Wow. But it's a full-blown car. You know? Different sizing. You know? This is the plaza where the church ends. The church is on the right. It's behind the church. The original picture was basically taken this way in. Whole plaza here is completely full with those coffee tables and 3 or 4 different restaurants and coffee shops serving here. You know? And here on the top you can see the cafe just a little bit looking out. It's a panorama shot. This is about 180 degrees panoramic shot from one corner to the other corner here. But you get to feel Friday around, this is about 3 p.m. Friday at 3 p.m. It's not yet too busy, but there is some flair. Something is going on. Huh? And Heidelberg is not necessarily, is South Germany, but not the stereotype South. So people are not really yet sitting there having a beer, coffee, just having a conversation. What we call flanier. Then I walked by this one. Remember we had in the readings for housing, we had this concept of courtyards. Yeah? That square, like the donut house. So I walked by here and I go, what's that? There was no sign, nothing. This is the entrance. This is the courtyard. There are like 3 or 4 shops at here in the corner. That shop actually had some candles and some other scents. This is a restaurant extension. This is all beer garden sitting outside. This is actually a hot dog stand. Yeah? And there was actually a second courtyard going down here as well. Completely hidden. Not really, this was a sign for it. So really bad marketing. Yeah? But it's kind of a gem. It was really cool. It was maybe 40, no, 25 yards, 75 feet maximum. Not much, not really much. This is a typical residential street we have here.
I was going to ask you that. What's the market rate for living somewhere like that? If you want to live in one of those residential
Expensive.
Heidelberg is expensive now. I don't know what these are going for, but Heidelberg is expensive. Oh wait, we actually had a discussion. A friend of mine just moved and he said those rental prices are like Heidelberg. 1,400 square foot would be 2,000.
That's a college town too, right?
That's a college town.
Yeah.
But that's historic downtown. So, but that means also, I have no idea about the housing market in Heidelberg, and if that price of 2,000 is a condominium somewhere on the hill, or is it downtown? No idea. But it could be also that this, the 2 or 3 windows you can see could be also 3-bedroom apartment for students, and you end up with $300 or $400 a month because you live a shared apartment, but you live small. So half of this classroom would be the apartment. You know, I used to live in an apartment. Our kids